everyone, it's me, Darlene. I'm already back with another video about the new quilt along, Crumb with Me. I am suddenly very excited about this. I knew once I just put a video out there talking about it that it would all fall into place in my brain space. And I realized a couple of things that made me really excited. First of all, I showed you in video number 1, the intro, some of the crumbs that I brought with me from Maine. I also have crumbs that I've created while I'm in Mississippi, and I'm gonna go show you everything I've got to work with. And then I thought, I don't have to start from scratch. I've got all these partial pieces and bigger pieces, and I can use a lot of those to put this quilt together. So it will not take me as long as I thought to create my crumb blocks. The other thing I wanted to tell you is if you have zero interest in putting together crumbs, you can skip that and just cut fabric or, piece, whatever way you want. Cut them to size as to what I tell you the pieces will need to be sized at. Meaning if I tell somebody you need an 8 by 10 block, it doesn't have to be made up of crumbs. And you could just cut an 8 by 10, or you could do like a half square triangle, whatever you like to do. And then at the end, we're going to put all these odd sized blocks together with sashing to make the quilt. And I really don't think I'm going to show you the final image because I kind of want it to be a surprise. We're just going to create the blocks and I will tell you how to put them together, and then you'll have your quilt, and then I can show the image near the end. I don't know, we'll see. I might change my mind about that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you my scraps that I have collected. You'll see like what I had last night and then the other ones that I have here. And again, don't think you need all that. I have made entire quilt tops with crumbs and it like hardly made a dent. So you don't need a whole lot. The other thing is so last night I started by taking a fairly big piece, and I needed it to be, I believe, 5.5 by 7.5. I will look at my diagram again and count the little grid squares and see what I need for sure. And it wasn't big enough, so I built on it, and I'm just gonna show you the funky way I built on it, and then I'm gonna trim it, so one block will be done for me, and then you can start on your own. And throughout this whole series, if you feel like just putting crumbs together, you can, start things and not make them too big, and then you can add as we go. So you're free to start, piecing any way you want. And, some pieces, like I said, will be trimming, long, tall pieces, and it's just going to be fun, I think. And all right, so let's go look at my stuff, and then I will trim this very oddly shaped crumb block that I have, and that will be the first block that you can create. So here are the crumbs that I showed you last night. Now these are some of the pieces that I already have made. You can see that I have quite a bit to work with. These are smaller pieces. I believe these are mostly all salvages. These are the little quilt blocks that have actually been trimmed that I used to put on eBay. This bag is some big scraps and some crumbs, maybe strips, more crumbs there. This is my new stuff. This is all crumbs that I created in Mississippi, but a lot of it is fabric that I got in Maine that I brought with me. But there's a lot of new prints in there too, things that I have, picked up through my wholesalers since I've been here. And this is the little box that I keep on my table. So I throw my crumbs in there, and then it gets dumped into a bigger box like this. This is the box of the scraps that I used for the scrappy quilt that we did for a quilt along. But I have pieces here that can, be considered crumbs. But I don't think I'm going to need to be worried about crumbs. So let me move all of this, and then I'm going to cut the first block. I will show you what I did, and we'll trim it, and we'll see what we do after that. Before I talk about this weird thing, I want to remind everyone that I have an entire series on crumb quilting, and the link is in the description box of this video. I will also have it on the end screen at the end of this video. You can always find it in the right sidebar at the bottom of my blog, darlenemisho.com. I see I made a mistake. I'm going to explain this in a minute. But see this top piece? It's in the seam, but this was supposed to be flipped up. So I'll see if I need that. If I do, I'll actually pick it out a little bit and fix that. Okay, I needed a block that was going to be 7.5 inches wide by 5.5 inches tall. So I had this little guy, and this was actually visible in the thumbnail from the previous video, the first video of this series. And it had more of a cat face, but when I put it in there and tucked it in there, I lost quite a bit of it. So there's just a cat eyeball. This is from Maine. I had this already made in Maine. So I just want to show you that don't fall in love with your pieces so much that you're going to be sad if it doesn't look the way you wanted it. I had a partial cat face. I didn't care. I stuck it in there when I did this, and I was always good with however it turns out. That's the way it was meant to be. And I kind of like just the one eyeball. Actually, I think it was just this much. I don't remember. I think I added this last night. Yes, I did. So what I did is I just took a piece and I knew I had to build on it. So somehow I believe I added this to this. Yes, and then I added this, which is actually a selvage, but that'll be trimmed. And then I added this. This was actually a separate piece. Look at the little narrow strip in here. Now again, I didn't sew a little tiny strip like that. And I show that in my series, and I'm sure I will show it again during this series, how this little striped piece, that probably was 4 inches wide. But then when I sewed this onto it, I just butted up really close so that when I folded it over, only that was showing, and then you just trim on the other side. So I had that, and then I had to build, and I added this, again, another strip set in here, this colorful thing next to the glasses, and that is also something that was wide, and I added it and then trimmed after the fact. And then I just stuck another piece that I had made here, and this, like I said, this came from Maine, and this just happened to be folded over when I tucked it in, so now it's permanently stuck. We'll figure it out. I just wanted to make sure I could get 7.5 this way and 5.5 this way. I mean this way. 7.5 this way, 5.5 this way. So now let's just get my ruler and let me trim. And I'm just going to see, I like things as wonky as possible, always. And I'm just going to cut a straight edge. I need a new mat. This one I've sliced through in so many places. So let me just cut it there. Let me turn. And I need it to be 5.5 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. Ooh, that's going to work. I need my other one. Everything I have is so old. I can't even see the lines on the little one. I have to get another one. Okay, so right here. The good thing about this is if you screw up, it's not a big deal. You add to it, you grab another piece, whatever. Okay, so obviously I'm keeping this. This is going to make a nice angle to connect to another block. If I want to get rid of the dangly thing, I can trim that right now. So I have my 5.5 this way, and I need 7.5 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. Oh, I think this one's going to accidentally turn out great. And again, I'm absolutely keeping that. So look, I have my first block. Now this is going to be longer on the horizontal. So if you're making something that has any kind of novelty pieces or whatever, and you want them all to be facing in the same direction, just know this one is 7.5 wide by 5.5 tall. So this is the orientation of it. And this is what I have. I like mine. Now, you can see, I really go out of the way to do a lot of angles, a lot of wonkiness, a lot of mixed prints. You can do what you want. If you want to just put squares and rectangles together and just like kind of work in the round, that's fine. You don't have to, you know, slap together all these weird pieces. This is just what I prefer. The wonkier, the better in my book. But you can do anything you want, and you don't have to start with small pieces. You don't have to start with big pieces and then make them look small. Just whatever, just do whatever. Or like I said, you can just cut a piece of fabric 7.5 by 5.5, and just remembering that it's going to be in this orientation, landscape, so you can you know, plan accordingly. If you make this, this is block A, and you can mark it. I sometimes use these little guys, but you know, they're not sticky, not very sticky. They're just little tiny things like that. So if you're going to be moving things around, you might want to, if you have clips, you could clip a piece of paper saying this is A. And you can also, you know, put it in the, like the top left corner in the direction that you want your block to be. So later you don't have to remember, did I want this one this way or this way? So you could put an A right here. Let me do it. Let me find, let me see, I have some of these already out. I don't move my blocks around much. I will have a box that I will be putting these in. So I'm just going to make the letter A. I don't think I need this much help. And I'm going to do it this way because I think the little eyeball looks good that way. So I'm going to put that right up here. And that's my first block. So every block I have you make, and it won't be in order. You know, the next one might not be B, it might be C. You're just going to mark them. And then at the end, I'm going to tell you where to add sashing on the blocks, and we will be joining. And you're just not going to know the whole shape of this until we're done. I mean, obviously the quilt is rectangular. Oh, and it's going to be about 40 wide by 51 long. So it's not a perfect square. I don't like perfectly square quilts. It is longer than wide, and it's a pretty good size. And I am going to have a border around it with the same, like the same as the sashing. As for sashing, I don't know how much you will need. I will figure that out a little later. I have to count a lot of little grid squares and figure that out. And I might use black. I don't actually have black, so I'd have to get some. You can use anything you want. You could use multiple colors. You can use a print. Doesn't mean that it has to be a solid. So maybe I'll even do that. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. So here's block A. Let me make another block while we are on this video. I am also going to make block E, and I want to show you that you do not have to just start and build. It's really fun to just make little pieces like this, and then you put them aside and you use them when you need to make bigger pieces. So I certainly have 3 in this direction. I need 6.5, did I say, in this direction. So I'm going to just connect these. I could do it any way I want. I could do this. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to connect on this little strip set. See, you can see in the back that was a strip set. And this is where I said we can make it as narrow as we want. If I were to just put this here and sew right here, when we open that up, you know, the things would be that wide. But if we were to move this down here and leave some of that strip set sticking up, when we sew and we flip, the strip set suddenly becomes very narrow, but it was easy to sew because we had a lot of fabric to sew on. So it was nice and stable, and we didn't have to worry about it. Now, if this part was longer, I would also sew a piece on that would be attached to a separate piece. So there's just so many ways that you can just keep your crumbs growing. It's almost like the starter dough. It just never ends. I also can angle this. So I will, because I know I'm going to have enough room to cut 3 inches in this direction. So let me just angle this because I like stuff to be weird. And I'm just going to, you know, have it a little bit crooked so you can see that my strip set is showing on one end but not on the other. And I'm going to sew along the straight edge of my top piece. So I'm going to just sew like that. Then I will trim this excess off. So now this is what it looks like. The strip set has an angle to it. It's right there below that brown piece. Just a little bit more interesting. Let me press this and then I'm going to trim, what did I say? 6.5 by 3. And this one is also going to be a horizontal landscape block. So 6.5 this way, 3 this way. I forgot to show that on the back side, I can trim that now. And this is not enough to save. So I'm just going to trim and toss that. And I also wanted to point out that I have flannels in here. This is flannel. Here's another cat eye. Now that will, you know, probably get completely lost. Maybe I'm going to want to put something else in, you know, that covers it. So it's trimmed. I have some, oh, this is winter. Okay, what a good example of what I was telling you. Nobody would look at that piece of fabric and say, oh my God, she's got Christmas in there. You can't even tell. So just, you know, do whatever. Now I'm going to trim it. Once again, I'm going to check 6.5 by 3. And I can decide what part I want to trim. This is a keeper. And I was in a groove. So I'm going to just turn this and trim it again. I need a new mat so bad. You know what? I have a newer, smaller one. Why am I not using that? Now we're in business. Now I just need another smaller ruler. There we go. That came out good. I have my second block done. This is E. We skipped all the way to E. Right there. So you are ready now to make blocks A and E. As a recap, A is 7.5 wide, 5.5 tall. E is 6.5 wide, 3 inches tall. So go ahead and make these. Again, make them any way you want. And I will be back with more soon, and we'll try to make a couple more blocks. Please subscribe. Bye.